terminated. Did Doug Ford blow a trade deal with Trump? Trade talks with Canada are off. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Up in smoke. According to U.S. President Donald Trump, he has terminated trade talks between Canada and the United States because he doesn't like a television commercial that the Ontario government, led by Premier Doug Ford, has been airing in various U.S. markets. The commercial uses the voice of the former U.S. President Ronald Reagan, a hero to many Republicans. It was recorded in 1987. And in it, President Reagan explains his opposition to tariffs. This is the commercial.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
In a posting on social media, Trump called the ad fake and pointed to a statement from the Ronald Reagan Foundation that says the commercial used selective audio and video and that the Ontario government didn't seek permission to use the late president's remarks. The Ontario government says Reagan's words are accurate and that it doesn't need permission. Ford's government was supposed to spend $75 million airing that commercial. Ford defended the use of the ad earlier this week while speaking with reporters at the Ontario legislature.
I heard that the president heard our ad. I'm sure he wasn't too happy, but it's real because it was coming from the best president the country's ever seen, Ronald Reagan. So it's very effective. It's probably one of the best ads I've ever seen, and it's coming from Ronald Reagan's voice. And it's going to be focused right across the country, but also in Republican-held areas, because what I feel, the Reagan Republicans are going to be fighting with a MAGA group, and let's hope Reagan Republicans win.
This morning, speaking on the tarmac at the airport just before leaving for Asia, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his officials have been working with their American counterparts on trade deals that are sector-specific.
That our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries.
The Prime Minister spoke for about 2 minutes each in both official languages, then turned around, made his way to his airplane without taking any questions from reporters.
Nos nouveaux partenariats, surtout en Asie, avec les géants économiques en Asie, et ça, c'est l'objectif de ce voyage. Merci beaucoup.
Trump's termination of any trade talks between the United States and Canada comes at the end of what has been a week of bad economic news in this country, especially in the auto sector. Stellantis announced it won't make the Jeep Compass in Brampton anymore. That'll be made in Illinois instead. That's 3,000 jobs in doubt. General Motors canceled production outright of an all-electric delivery van called the Bright Drop that was supposed to be made in Ingersoll. Prime Minister Carney continues to insist Canada has the best deal with the United States of any other country in the world.
The reality is that two things are true. the situation in terms of U.S. tariffs have changed dramatically in several of our most important industries, particularly in the auto sector. That is one point, and that's causing a number of these challenges, although specifically with respect to the GM plant, it was as much about a model that didn't work as it was about the tariff situation, but they have to deal with the tariff situation. So that's one thing. At the same time, we pay the lowest tariffs on autos and auto parts into the United States. The point is, so we have the best deal with respect to autos, but we have to work to get it even better. It starts with working up the supply chain on steel and aluminum. We go to that. So it's part of a bigger set of negotiations with the Americans, which we're working hard to do.
Premier Ford, meantime, is still using his well-worn line about scrambled eggs and omelets.
I always say the auto pack's been around since the 1960s. You can't unscramble an egg. You have to make the omelet larger. And that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on the AmCan fortress, the American-Canadian fortress, that strengthens our auto sector, manufacturing sector, against countries like China. The only people that win in a tariff war are the people around the world that don't necessarily see eye to eye with us and with the United States.
On Parliament Hill, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, accused the Prime Minister of doing nothing to help Canada's auto sector.
None of those things. No win, no deal, no job protections. And in fact, since he took office, American tariffs on Canadian autos have actually increased. We needed him to actually keep his promise and defend auto workers in the negotiations with the Americans. We also propose to eliminate the EV mandate, which is already killing jobs even before it is applied, because in manufacturing, if you're going to build a plant or you're even going to reinvest in maintaining an existing plant, but you don't know if it's actually going to be allowed due to the ban on internal combustion engines, you're not going to make that investment. You'll take it to the south of the border where there is no EV mandate. So we call on the government to permanently eliminate the EV mandates and let our automakers make the cars that consumers actually want to drive. We've also proposed eliminating the sales tax on Canadian-made automobiles, giving Canadians a boost when they buy a Canadian-made vehicle.
It's certainly not the best timing for Prime Minister Carney, learning that Trump is putting the trade talks on ice. He has just left for Malaysia, and all told, he will be out of the country for the next 9 days. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
With our expert in communications, crisis communications, political communications, our focus today with Barry McLoughlin, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. You can read Barry on his Substack, listen to his podcast, and he's with us every Friday, and lots to talk about today. Welcome back.
Great to be with you, Rob.
Well, we've been terminated. We've been terminated by Donald Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
He's canceled the trade talks between Canada and the United States because he is offended, apparently, by a commercial that's being run all across the United States by the Ontario government, by the Ford government in Ontario, that uses actual words from Ronald Reagan from 1987, where he explains in a weekly radio address his opposition to tariffs. So let's start by playing the commercial again, please. Curtis, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So it's a mess now, Barry, but who do you blame for it? Do you blame Ford? Do you blame Trump? What do you think?
Well, in the end, you're dealing with a temperamental child. Anybody who's ever had one knows, okay, anything can set them off. And it doesn't matter how small. Was it the little tweak that Mr. Carney gave him about not returning his call over, a bet for who's going to win the World Series? Maybe that got him a little bit annoyed there. I mean, it could be anything and everything. So you got a guy here that the irony of all this about Ronald Reagan and everything is that who stole "Make America Great Again," the slogan that got him into the White House? I believe he was President Ronald Reagan. Did he ever pay a nickel of rights for that to the Reagan Foundation? Absolutely not. He just took it, made it his own. Maybe he's allowed to. Sure, fair enough. But nevertheless, he never wants to give him credit for it. So, yes. You could say that Doug Ford, the government provoked him. Yeah, Doug Ford, he's been like stomping at the, on the ground. He's trying to hold back his anger. He once threatened to cut off hydroelectric power to the 3 American states. By the way, that got him a quick invitation to come to the White House, come to Washington. So he's always been very, out there in his very strongly felt anger. And I think the major thing that he did here was to try to reach American consumers, American families who will be very hard hit, who are starting to feel it. They haven't fully felt it yet because supply chains aren't totally used up, but who will feel the impact of these tariffs. And we have at the embassy in Washington, state by state, how much each family will be affected. Often it's an average of $3,900 US per family by these tariffs on Canadian products. And so we know what it costs, but we don't actually get out there and tell them, this is what you are going to pay. Why aren't you asking your representatives in Washington to stand up for you? Nobody's standing up for you, especially in those red states. They've been subject to about almost a year here of just sheer mis and disinformation. I mean, we teach that at Ottawa U. Risk and crisis communications in an age of disinformation. That's the course. Mm-hmm. This is disinformation. Okay. And Trump's reaction was classic. It was he responds not with the substance of what Reagan said, every word of it true, but he decides to change the channel by talking about the rights for it and the editing and the Reagan Foundation. That's called changing the channel. So he's using all the tactics.
Should the Ford government pull those ads from the air?
No, I don't think so anymore.
No? Okay.
No, I think they can change the ad. I mean, it's a $75 million buy. People get tired of the same ad after a while. He could mix it up. He could put himself right on the camera and say, he could quote Ronald Reagan. He could do a number of different things. But in the end, though, the hit's been made, and he's already showing you he's not going to roll over. So he won't be doing that. But I think he'll find a different way to maybe freshen the message because you get lost. The message gets lost in issues of copyright. That's not the issue, but the disinformation kings south of the border love to hit the disinformation button. So he could change it up, but still keep the pressure on. Americans need to know. They don't know how much they're paying under these tariffs.
All right. When we come back, a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays playing in the World Series. Game 1 tonight in Toronto on Sportsnet. So I'm Rob Snow. I'm here with Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants on News Radio.
You have questions
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
on News Radio.
We're back with Barry McLoughlin, TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. So, the other big story in Canada is Toronto Blue Jays. Go Jays, go. First World Series game in Toronto in 32 years. Mm-hmm. An incredible run for the team. Very good for my employer, I should say. The team's owner, Rogers Communications. In fact, Rogers said as much yesterday when it reported its latest financial results. These are not company secrets. It's public information because Rogers has shares on the stock market. I mean, this is right from the newspaper. In media, revenue growth up 26%. 26% in media. Like, where do you ever hear that? Driven by the Rob Snow Show? No. Strong Blue Jays. Strong Blue Jays regular season consolidation of MLSE. So look, I mean, what has this meant for Rogers? First of all, it's obviously been great for them, but also the brand. And how can other companies maybe benefit from just being on the Jays bandwagon?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, look at what's the one subject that unites all Canadians now, what gets us excited about our country, gets us enthusiastically, the positive vibes. We've just been talking about all the negativity of tariffs and everything else, which people are very tired of. Here comes this amazing story 32 years later, as you say. And who owns it? Rogers. So Rogers is doing the right thing. They're leveraging the brand of the Blue Jays. Wow. It's dominating almost every sector. I mean, there's bars and restaurants in Ottawa that are serving drinks all connected to the Blue Jays. They didn't pay any rights for that, but they're taking a piece of the action wherever they can. You know, the Vladdy cocktail and everything else. So they're trying everything they can to get a piece of it. Rogers has a dominant share of that. It's benefiting from it. It's offsetting possibly some other sectors which are flat. Boy, this one is just hit like a rocket. They also, of course, leverage through MLSE. They leverage the Raptors and the Maple Leafs, so they got all the seasons covered now. This is fabulous. So I think that, you know, after a really flat 30-some years of Blue Jays, now everybody is a Blue Jay fan in Canada. So they're doing all the right things of leveraging a piece of that emotional stake in the Blue Jays. That's what it is. It's an emotional stake that they now capture a really great piece of. And every company should look to see, you know, how do we do that? Maybe we've had Shania Twain already, McDonald's. Maybe we got to get a Blue Jay thing in there going because, you know, it might be short-lived, but I think it could be one that certainly lasts several years because we're going to keep on doing this. And I think it's a great thing for Rogers. It's a golden gift.
Yeah, and it's something, I mean, when a team is doing really well, if a team wins a championship in particular or goes to, say, a World Series or a Stanley Cup final, a Super Bowl final, I mean, that can, the momentum from that can carry a sports franchise through what can be some pretty lean years afterwards, you know, when the team maybe not
That's correct.
winning.
You know, that's absolutely true. And you need to be able to do that, of course. But, you know, you're seeing with Edmonton Oilers and that, I mean, we're getting, you know, a love across Canada for teams that normally we would ignore. Even if it's a temporary love or romance, it's still enough to kind of boost everybody that's got a little leverage in it, little stake in it. And I think it's so good for the sport, of course, but it's also good for the broadcaster that owns it, Rogers, because it really does get people very, very, it's appointment TV. We're not missing a minute of this.
Yeah. Well, go Jays, go! I'm sure you'll be watching it as well, Barry.
Absolutely.
So, great to hear from you. Enjoy the ball game.
Thank you. You too.
Soon. Yeah. Bye bye.
Okay. Right.
Barry McLoughlin is the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Tom Korski with us every Friday from Blacklock's Reporter. He's right after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
He's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. Tom Korski is back with us, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. Great to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Rob.
There was a meeting of the Veterans Affairs Committee this week, and one of the highest public servants in that department appeared to be like a deer caught in the headlights under questioning from an opposition MP. Let's listen to this.
Okay, what about with your veterans homelessness strategy? That was introduced in April of 2023, 2.5 years ago now. Do you know how many homeless veterans there were in 2023 versus how many there are now? I would hope you're not still rolling that one out. That's 2.5 years.
That program has been
moving forward. And simply put, one homeless veteran is too many. As you mentioned, that program has been rolling out in conjunction with the Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure.
So do we know what the results are from that? Do we know how, like, the number of homeless veterans now compared to what it was in 2023 when it was introduced?
In the last data that we have from the census was in 2021. We will see new information following the 2026 census.
Okay.
I can speak to...
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I only have a limited amount of time. April 2023, you put out a strategy. 2.5 years later, in late 2025, you're telling me the best data you have is from 2021. So you have no way of knowing whether what you're doing is working. Like, if you're going to measure success, don't you need to know what you've accomplished?
Right. 2021. That's the minister. Okay, that's the minister. Jill McKnight, like the top of the Veterans Affairs food chain. No idea what's going on with that program. $79 million program, Tom. What do you think of that?
$79 million. The questioner is MP Blake Richards from Airdrie, Cochrane, Alberta, asking about a signature program that has cost a lot of money. You know, the odd part is the minister she gets about $300,000 a year. They give her a car and a chauffeur. And they also write out notes for her so she knows what's going on. They're called briefing notes. And back in June 13th, the department sent a briefing note to Minister McKnight. I know I got my copy. It was called Veteran Homelessness. And it asked the question that MP Richards asked 6 months later. And it was obvious that Minister McKnight had not even read her briefing note. So this is not an earn-while-you-learn position, as you know, Rob. And this is the sorrow and the pity. It's only funny if you're not a veteran and you have a disability benefits claim and you'll wait 2.5 years for them to move the paperwork. Ms. McKnight, who has no record of military service and can't read a briefing note, is the 8th Minister of Veterans Affairs in 6 years. Why do they even bother? It was really something.
And some of them had been really, going back even to the Harper years, I mean, some of them had been really, they've been doozies, to say the least. It's like a dumping ground for the hapless. And the thing is, the government actually has a decent story to tell. You know, the situation is actually improving a little bit. Not much, but a little bit.
For homeless veterans, that's right. They spent $79 million, and by their estimate, has nothing to do with the census. She made that up. They do shelter counts, and they have other real-time data. And they came to an estimate of 2,000 homeless veterans in our country. Mental health and addiction issues very common. That compares to 2,400 in 2023. Now, we can argue as to whether that's incremental progress proportionate to spending $79 million, but mackerel, you have to get on the stick. This is not a minister being chased down a hallway, being asked about, as they say in Nova Scotia, rocket surgery. This is the Minister of Veterans Affairs appearing in the Committee on Veterans Affairs, asked a question about Veterans Affairs. Like, you got to play it sharper than that.
Okay. I mean, it was Auditor General Week. I mean, that is never a good time for any government when the Auditor General releases a series of reports. What did the Auditor General of Canada, Karen Hogan, say about the state of military housing?
I wouldn't want to live there, she said, and neither would you. They did spot inspections at some bases. The military, by the way, is the second biggest federal landlord in the country. They own over 20,000 buildings, second only to the Department of Public Works that owns all those office buildings right across the country. And they found there's this extraordinary waiting list, 3,700 members, soldiers, sailors, and aircrew waiting for shelter. The available shelters are 205, so that's quite a waiting list. And of the shelter that's available, they found problems like there weren't running toilets, inadequate plumbing, structural defects. Not a place you or I would want to live in, let alone a military family, said Auditor Hogan. This is really something. There's no one to blame on this one. Cabinet can't blame the municipalities, Rob. They can't blame their bad friends. They can't blame the developers or climate change. They literally manufactured their very own little housing crisis on military bases across the country. It's really something.
Okay, when we come back, more on the Auditor General's report. We'll talk about all the problems she found with the Canada Revenue Agency and how MPs plan to follow up with the CRA when we return with Tom Korski for Blacklock's reporter on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
With Tom Korski, the managing editor of Blacklock's reporter, we're reviewing some of the material from this week's Auditor General's report. Not kind to the Canada Revenue Agency. Review for us again what she said about the Canada Revenue Agency.
Well, she said they don't know how to answer the phone. They failed 2 audits in 8 years on how to answer the phone at their call centers. The Canada Revenue Agency has more than 4,500 people assigned to answering the phones. They have 8 call centers to answer phones. They hired some consultants to improve their software. That cost $190 million. And they lowered their service standards, so they had a better chance of saying we're on target. None of that worked, Rob. They still can't answer the phone. Auditors showed that they typically waited, anyone who's called Canada Revenue Agency knows this, you typically wait half an hour on the phone. If you're super lucky and you get to speak to an agent, the odds are they will probably give you incorrect information. The same man has been in charge this whole time, not a household name, but he's a character. His name is Bob Hamilton, Commissioner of the Canada Revenue Agency. MPs have asked him, like, why? You couldn't work at PetSmart, buddy. Like, what are you doing? And they just can't get any satisfaction, Rob.
And they keep lowering the service standard as well. It used to be, we'll try to pick up the phone within 2 minutes, 90% of the time, and now that is not the standard. It was revised in 2019. I can't recall what the new standard is, but yeah, 65% of the calls within 15 minutes. So maybe they just need to revise the service standards. I will say the union says we've suffered cutbacks. They cut, I think it was 6,500 jobs from the Canada Revenue Agency in total, and what we really need is more staff. Now, the government says it has a 100-day action plan. Opposition MPs want to dig into what's going on with the CRA. Why does it take so long to answer the phone? And why, when somebody asks a question, is the information inaccurate so often? Which is another finding from the AG's report. What are MPs going to do?
Well, they're getting the Minister of Revenue, who's also the Minister of Finance, Francois-Philippe Champagne, down into committee to explain his miracle magic plan and explain why they can't answer the phone. The commissioner was in committee, Public Accounts Committee. He did not enjoy himself, Rob. And he was reduced to saying how hard it is to answer. So help me. He said how hard it is to answer the phone from taxpayers who have all these tax questions. Why don't I quote him accurately? People should understand this is not an easy job when you're sitting on the end of the phone trying to explain to someone what their tax situation is, end of quote, says the tax guy with a $375,000 a year salary, a car, and a chauffeur. Isn't that the hallmark of Canada Revenue Agency? Ask them to answer the phone, give them $190 million and 4,500 employees, and when they can't answer the phone, they'll tell you how hard it is. Really, they're the victims, Rob.
Okay. Let's turn to Canada Post. What's known about the government's plans for Canada Post?
We know there are sweeping cuts. The minister in charge is the Minister of Public Works, Joe Lightbound is his name, is Quebec Liberal from the Montreal area. He calls it reform, which is kind of an interesting way of putting at it. Structural reforms. Structural reforms are they're not going to deliver mail to the doorstep anymore. Everyone's going to have a community mailbox. May not have delivery every day, could be every second day. And they're lifting a moratorium on rural post office closures, goes way back to 1994. He's been called into committee, and there's a lot of MPs who are getting heat over this community mailbox business, and that includes townies. That includes MPs from the town. This was so unpopular 10 years ago. Of course, Liberals said we're never would we, with trembling hand, eliminate doorstep mail delivery, but they're looking at it now.
Yeah. Surprised it's getting that much backlash, but I suppose nothing should surprise me anymore. Look, the CBC, for some reason, its subscriber data for its GEM streaming service is like a state secret. MPs have been just wanting to know how many people are subscribing to GEM. Are they paying to subscribe to GEM? How much are they paying? How many subscribers do you have? It should be pretty. I mean, it's not like the CBC doesn't know this, but what have MPs managed to dig up about it?
Well, it is highly entertaining. This is their service that's supposed to compete with Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And as late as last year, top executives at the CBC said, we are amazing. We've really done it this time. We have millions. They quoted 2 million subscribers to their CBC GEM service, cost $72 a year. And they said, we have so many happy customers to our streaming service, it compensates for the calamitous decline in the audience for the main television network.
Right.
And so someone asked through Access to Information, how many paid subscribers do you have? And they have gone to court to quash an order from the Information Commissioner to disclose that figure. Now the new CEO says, Rob, to committees on the MPs on the Heritage Committee, that there are millions of, air quotes, subscribers who got the free giveaway accounts, have never paid a penny, but we can't say how many are customers because that's commercially confidential. The implication is to MPs obvious that they are padding the numbers, and the figure, if known, would be an embarrassment.
Right. So the CBC would claim, okay, we have 5.3 million subscribers. MPs simply want to know, okay, how many of those subscribers paid for the $72 a year subscription versus how many signed up for free, one time, free account. And the CBC is going to court, the public broadcaster,
it's something.
which relies,
it really is.
Almost entirely on funds from the public, is saying, no, we're not going to tell you that. It's amazing. All right. A few more things. If you'll hang around for a few more minutes, Tom, if you don't mind.
You bet, Rob.
Okay. And it's foreign aid to China. We're giving foreign aid to China. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It's a not insignificant sum either. We'll be right back with Tom Korski from Blacklock on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back for a few more minutes with Tom Korski, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. Talkback. We do Talkback for 2 hours here every day. Tom, take calls from listeners in various parts of the country, Atlantic Canada, Southern Ontario, out in Alberta. And quite often we will get calls, especially on a Friday, about foreign aid. Canadians think we spend too much in foreign aid. And some Canadians are concerned about the government embracing the idea of a digital ID. They're working on that, by the way. They really are. I've been doing some digging into that. But we're sending foreign aid to China, Tom? Really? How much?
Almost $109 million in the last 10 years. 108.9 million, says the Department of Foreign Affairs. Why? Why would we do such a thing? It's to promote sustainable development in developing countries worldwide, including China. I just read accurately a quote from the briefing note for the minister. Sustainable development in a country that has aircraft carriers and a space program. $109 million in the last 10 years. They won't stop. By the way, what you described in characterizing your call-ins, Rob, is absolutely representative of in-house research by the Department of Foreign Affairs. Universally, Canadians do not understand why we spend so much as we do, over $12 billion a year in foreign aid, and why we give it to some countries, such as we do, that Parliament has censured for genocide. And here's a check. It doesn't really add up.
Well, yeah, and a country that has, well, let's count them, tariffs on our canola, our soybeans, our pork, our seafood. I mean, why would we do that to ourselves? Okay. Digital ID, you have higher-ups at Pearson Airport, the country's busiest airport, and other airports are saying, we like the idea of a digital ID. Tell us more.
Airport lobbyists have petitioned the Commons Finance Committee, Rob, to have a digital ID system. It would require a change in legislation. Currently, when you need to travel in our country, this is for domestic travel, all you need is government-issue photo ID. Any driver's license or passport will do. No, they want digital ID on the promise of speedier service. That's always the catch. There are, I can tell you, libertarians in the House of Commons who are wide awake on this, and they do not like the idea. Canadian Airports Council, writes the Finance Committee, enable digital ID and biometrics in domestic air travel. Biometrics, that's photo identification and fingerprinting, like hell, say several MPs.
I suspect so. Hey, thanks for sticking around for a few extra minutes. Have a great weekend, Tom Korski. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you, Rob. You bet.
Yeah, from Blacklock's reporter, he's the managing editor there. If you are ever looking for a podcast of our show, now you know with Rob Snow, we have a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker spelled Seekr. And it has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker spelled Seekr. And now you know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up right after the latest breaking news, it's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback. We don't usually come up with topics on Fridays. We let you do the heavy lifting on that. Pick a topic. We're usually good to roll with it. There are two big news stories today, of course. Doug Ford's Ronald Reagan ad that has been appearing in the United States and has angered Donald Trump to such an extent he has terminated trade talks with Canada. Whose fault is that? Should Doug Ford keep airing those commercials in the United States? He says he's going to air them tonight during the World Series. And that's the other big story, of course. Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. Game 1 tonight against the Los Angeles Dodgers in Toronto. Care to make a prediction? I don't mind talking Jays for a couple of hours on a Friday with you. Friday Free-for-All Talkback, 1-833-668-2577. Your calls after the news.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today it's the Friday Free-for-All, and that's our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics on Friday. We leave that job up to you. So what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? If you want to talk about something that's been in the news, there's always news. There was lots of news this week, lots of news today. If you want to talk about something you think should be in the news, feel free to raise it here, whatever it happens to be. It can be serious, not so serious. We have a phone line for you. All of the phone lines are open right now, as a matter of fact. Let's get them ringing. 1-833-668-2577. That's the call-in line, 1-833-668-2577. And if you've never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. Again, 1-833-668-2577. We always have topics ready to go, but just consider them to be nothing more than conversation starters. We really have two big stories in the news in the country today. One is Trump and trade, Ronald Reagan TV commercial, and tariffs and talks being canceled by Trump. Trade talks canceled by Trump. That's one story, huge story, huge story. The other big story, of course, is the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays playing the Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 1 of the World Series tonight in Toronto on the Sportsnet, on the radio station you're listening to right now. I mean, it's a once-in-a-generation moment. It's the first World Series game in Canada in 32 years. I'd love to talk about that with you. Make a prediction if you want. Break down the tale of the tape, if you will. Love to hear from you on that. Those are really the two big stories in the country today. Trump, Ford, trade, and the Toronto Blue Jays. Feel free to comment on both. Pick a topic of your own. and we'll just see where the conversation takes us. Okay, 1-833-668-2577. Do you blame Doug Ford for this latest trade mess between Canada and the United States? Is it his fault? So you have not aired that ad, that Ronald Reagan ad that has angered Donald Trump? Or is this all about Trump? Is this, peak Trump, typical Trump? Because you just never know what Donald Trump is going to do from day to day, and maybe he's just looking for an excuse to do something like this, and he's found the perfect excuse in this ad. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. I mean, what do you think of this news? That Donald Trump has terminated trade talks with Canada because he doesn't like a TV ad that uses the voice of Ronald Reagan, who was always pro-free trade and anti-tariff. Trump is calling the ad fake. Now, the Ford government was supposed to spend $75 million airing this ad in markets all over the United States. Doug Ford was asked today if he was going to pull the ad. He said, no, it's going to be on television tonight during the World Series in the United States. For some reason, the Ford people seem to think that people who vote for Donald Trump will be swayed by hearing the voice of the great Republican hero from a long time ago in Ronald Reagan. I suppose that's debatable. But let's play the ad again. That has angered Donald Trump to such an extent, that he has terminated trade negotiations with Canada. Go ahead, Curtis. Yeah.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So the Trump administration and the Ronald Reagan Foundation say the ad has been manipulated and that it somehow misrepresents Ronald Reagan's views on tariffs. Now, that's debatable. The ad says the remarks from the former president, late Ronald Reagan, were made April 25th, 1987. April 25th, 1987. It was one of his weekly radio addresses. And maybe this is the offending line from that radio address that the Trump people are referencing. I listened to this today. You can too. It's very easy. It's on the YouTube account of the Reagan Presidential Library. It's 5 minutes long. And for most of the 5 minutes, it's very clear Ronald Reagan doesn't like tariffs and that he supports free trade. But there is a brief part in the video where he's talking about a trade dispute with Japan on semiconductors, where he suggests that the president and only the president needs the authority to negotiate trade deals, and that from time to time, there's a need for tariffs. So let's listen to that specific part of the radio address, TB Reagan Tariffs 1, please. Curtis, go ahead.
In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products, but we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth. So, with my meeting with Prime Minister Nakasone and the Venice Economic Summit coming up, it's terribly important not to restrict a president's options in such trade dealings with foreign governments. Unfortunately, some in the Congress are trying to do exactly that. I'll keep you informed on this dangerous legislation because it's just another form of protectionism, and I may need your help to stop it.
Okay. The late Ronald Reagan. Here we are. And where we are is not a good place to be. No trade talks with the Trump administration because of an ad Doug Ford is running. Who made this mess? Who do you blame for this mess? Trump? Because he loves chaos, you just never know what he's going to do? Or Doug Ford for running the ad, maybe poking the bear? Love your thoughts on that. 1-833-668-2577. Or anything else that's on your mind, you can start the discussion. It's the Friday Free-for-All Talkback, after all, on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, it sure is. Friday Free-for-All Talkback. Let's get right to it with your calls. In Kitchener, Matthew is up first on Talkback. Hi, Matthew.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. Matthew, what's on your mind?
So I got two things. The first thing, I'll just touch on the Trump-Reagan thing.
Yeah.
I do kind of feel like it was a little tasteless. Like, they did a lot of editing, and when I looked into it, I found that, yeah, he was actually imposing tariffs on Japan and saying we have a right to protect ourselves, which is what I think Trump's trying to kind of do. I mean, I don't obviously agree with everything that Trump does, and I don't like the tariffs at all. But to edit it like that, and then it kind of is misleading. And then to spend $75 million of taxpayer money on it, like, I don't think that's great.
Okay.
So maybe I'm wrong about that, but, you know, I think we could spend $75 million. He may put it toward his underground highway too. Yeah, so that was just kind of my thoughts about that. Like, I think that Canada I don't think he should just be able to put out an ad, and I don't know if it's directly responsible, I would assume. I think it should be like Canada won, and like he should have to clear it by like the Prime Minister.
Okay.
I mean, I'm conservative, so I don't really love everything that's happening with the Prime Minister and everything. I don't think he's done necessarily a terrible job, but
right. Well,
you know,
I guess the question before Doug Ford right now, and he's making no apologies by the sounds of it, says he's going to air this ad again. This ad will continue to air. Maybe they've already spent the money. I don't know. They have no choice. Right. But it's going to be on. It'll be on, for example, the World Series tonight on the American broadcast Fox tonight on the World Series across the United States. What do you think about that decision?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I don't think Trump's going to get another term anyways. I think a lot of people that got kind of swayed that were 50-50 are going to retract and go another way at least, or stay Republican, but it'll be a different leader. And obviously this is his last term, and unless he somehow changes the law, I think, like, yeah, like, it's good to get that out there, and, like, it might mislead the people a little bit, like, and get them to skew in our favor toward tariffs, which I think in 4 years or whatever, 3 years, it'll be gone, like, or not completely gone, but relaxed a lot toward us, because they are feeling pain, like their job losses, they're feeling pain. I think Trump's just kind of being ignorant toward it and saying this is the long term. I don't disagree with them being able to put up tariffs and kind of defend their economy, because they need to be one of the world's strongest, I think, for us to continue our way of life. But yeah, I mean, like, it's a good time to have it, right? If you're going to put it out there, that's great.
Okay. Thank you.
One better.
Yep. Thank you, Matthew. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Got to move along. Let's go to Jerry's in Waterloo. Hi, Jerry.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very good, Jerry. What's on your mind?
Well, I have two things. We'll touch real quick on what you guys are just talking about. I kind of blame them both. I think we got two huge egos at play here.
Right.
But I think Ford's got to learn to kind of stay in his lane here. And, you know, yes, he's the Premier of Ontario, but the acts that he's doing are speaking for the country and impacting the entire country and stepping on the toes of the Prime Minister and 9 other premiers. And, you know, I think he just needs to kind of put a leash on himself, or we need to put a leash on him and just keep his mouth shut, because I don't think he's helping us. But
Okay.
but the main reason I was calling was just to kind of reflect on this amazing story that we're about to watch tonight with Trey Savage, and how here's a kid in April was playing A-ball that most of us down in Dunedin making $17 in a Waffle House, playing in front of like was mentioned earlier, a couple hundred fans on a good night. And now, 7-8 months later, like he's living the dream that all of us as kids would have, and he's starting in the World Series. Like,
it's crazy.
Pinch yourself, Trey. Like, it is real. I think they'll be making a movie on this. Like, it's just incredible, the run that this kid has had.
Do you think, though, because I was thinking about this, 22 years old, and you're right, from the bottom rung of the minors to the biggest stage in baseball in a span of months, right? Is the club putting too much pressure on this guy?
You know what? That's a fair question. And I think because he hasn't made that many starts, but the starts that he has made, and I think because of his performance against New York, like, let's face it, he embarrassed the Yankees. Like, his stuff was just devastating. And he's not cocky, but he's confident. And I think because of that, I think he's earned the opportunity. I think he deserves it.
Care to make a prediction, sir, on the series?
I'd love to. LA is a tough opponent, but I'm going to go Jays in 7.
Jays in 7. Okay, Jays in 7. That's my prediction as well. Jays in 7. I agree with you. Very, very difficult team to beat on the other side there. Be right back. Lines available. Trump, Jays, something else entirely. It's the Friday free-for-all talkback. You can take it anywhere you want to go. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Dear goodness, I think I just heard my first Christmas shopping commercial on the radio. I swore I just heard the word festive in a commercial. Festive. It's October 24th. I'm not ready to hear that. Come on. Can we get Halloween out of the way first, please? Friday free-for-all talkback. I'm Rob Snow. Let's go to Orville. North Battleford, Saskatchewan today. Orville. Hi there, Orville.
Yes, good morning. And how are you doing today?
Very good. What's on your mind?
Well, it's very unfortunate that this thing went for Canada-U.S. trade relations went south all of a sudden with this new ad showing up in the States. The one thing that Canadians of all kinds should kind of think about, Canada will not win a trade war with the United States on, how would you call it, reciprocal returns like that. You have to have the best diplomatic conversations with Donald Trump, be in good trading mood. Any kind of talk back, or you're just not going to win. So Canadian, I really following the protocol established by our Prime Minister, Mark Carney. I think he's doing the best he can to keep a good working relationship with Donald Trump. And some of these side actions, like what just recently came from Doug Ford of Ontario, does not help in these very tight negotiations.
Okay. He's not backing down, says he's going to continue to air the ads on the World Series tonight in the United States. What do you think of that decision? Well,
it's, they've already established that. Maybe it'll show the strength of our Canadian ball team. Maybe, I'm hoping for the Blue Jays in 6. LA is a very good ball team, but LA is a very good ball team. They got a lot of experience there over the years. That Owatani is a fantastic player, that Owatani, plus many others. But but that's why we play the game.
That's right.
The game is decided by what we do in those 9 innings or plus, or those 3 hours. the kind of success you get. That's what makes you a winner either way. But yeah, but as far as this trade war, like, I have full confidence in Mark Carney with his business experience throughout the world.
Why do you have full confidence in him when he's achieved so little on this front in the time he's been prime minister?
Well, so what is it? Just correct me on this one. Is it about, let's see, is it about 8 months he's been prime minister? Not even 6 months?
It's been about 6 months since the election. 6 months next week since the election. He was prime minister before the election.
See, we had a prime minister before him that was on a different path of business for Canada. Mark Carney has come with a more directive of real business for Canada, and it takes a while to get things going. Like, we have to get all our private oil companies and players back in tune with this good business protocol, energy protocol that Mark Carney has established. I have full confidence that take a little bit of time.
Okay. But you think, as the previous caller said, just because we're tight on time, the previous caller said Doug Ford needs to stay in his lane. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he should stay in his lane, maybe back off a little bit.
Back off a little bit. Okay, gotta go. Bye-bye.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We've been talking for the most part, it is the Friday free-for-all Talkback, but we've been talking for the most part about Doug Ford's latest spat with Donald Trump over a Ronald Reagan TV commercial. Trade talks off as a result of that, according to Trump. In Game 1 of the World Series tonight, Jays and Dodgers, 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight on Sportsnet. And the radio station you're listening to right now, Go Jays. Jim is in Halifax. Hello, Jim.
Hi. Good day.
Hi, Jim.
You asked at the beginning, set up kind of an alternative. Did Ford poke the bear, or is Trump having a tantrum? I think it's a bit of both. But
okay.
Let's not kid ourselves. Logic and evidence and facts are not President Trump's strong suit. He talked about interference with a Supreme Court, pending Supreme Court decision. He called Ford's action illegal. Hogwash. There's no such thing. Anyone's allowed to say anything they want. He didn't. Anyway, so that was just ridiculous, but it sounded good for public consumption. As for the Ontario government in this case, lobbying, as it were, in Washington or in the United States, it happens all the time. Most provinces, including Ontario, have a representative in Washington. Their job is to meet with senators and representatives. Their job is to go on local talk shows, national talk shows. Lobbying by, quote, foreign governments is fine. It happens all the time. It's perfectly legal. They do it in Canada. So, again, but Trump never lets evidence or facts get in the way of a good tantrum. So what should we do? I think we can wait them out. And if the ads are already essentially paid for and running, including tonight, that's interesting. So be it.
But should they be? Should they be? He's being asked, should you air them? And he says, yeah, I'm going to continue airing them.
I see nothing wrong with that. I think, that at the end of the day, Trump will listen to his close advisors and his big business buddies. They need our aluminum. We supply about half their aluminum, and they have no other alternate supplier. They need our steel. Similar argument. They need our canola. They need our, the fertilizer that comes from Saskatchewan. We're the world's largest and almost only supplier, and the United States Midwest relies on it. So at the end of the day, they need us, and that will become evident. So in the meantime, he talks about they're bringing in money from the tariffs. The tariffs are paid for 100% by the United States importer. They're not paid by the exporter from Canada or China or wherever. So again, Trump never lets the facts get in the way of a good rant. Enough. I've ranted long enough.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good weekend, sir. Thank you. JC, also in Nova Scotia. JC. Hi, JC.
Hi, Mark.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it's Rob
Yes,
here.
hi,
Yeah,
Mark. How
thank
are
you.
you?
Yeah, my name is Rob, sir. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Rob. My apologies.
That's okay.
About Doug Ford, I think he had every right to put it on. I don't think it's misleading. I mean, for time purposes, he only had a minute, probably. Now, whether Fox, I believe, is airing the Major League Baseball World Series tonight, it's whether they will air it for their audience.
That's good. That's
is
good
going to
point.
be the point. And also, when it comes to Trump, he's so thin-skinned, you can't this man. So anything that bothers him, I mean, whether you breathe on him or say anything to him, he takes it personally and he goes after everybody. That's why a lot of countries are starting to do business with each other. And that's why America's going to end up slipping.
All right, if I could, sir, if I could just present a bit of a counter argument. If you know that Donald Trump is like that and he's thin-skinned and everything, unpredictable and everything that you have said, should you really be provoking that side of him with an ad like this, for example? Or would you take the approach that Prime Minister Carney is clearly taken, which is to flatter the man?
Well, I did watch that Oval Office meeting with Carney, but you have to remember Doug Ford is trying to do everything for Ontario and what's best for Canada at the same time. Somebody has to stand up for him, to him rather, and if you don't, he's just going to start rolling over everybody. So I mean, he's a bully, and the bully has to be pushed. And if every country that feels the same way, if they all push together, he will fall. And this is what needs to happen. He's got away with 70 years of his adult life, pushing people, and nobody, there's no repercussions whatsoever. So something has to get done, and I'm glad that he stood up to him. And with Mark Carney last night saying that 70% of the military budget is spent, it goes to the U.S. in terms of equipment. So, I mean, even Mark Carney now is starting to build, he wants to build plants in Canada and start doing things in Canada. And I think other countries are doing the same thing. We only can wait and see. But this administration is probably the biggest organized crime family syndicate in the world. And it will only continue if nobody pushes back. And that's my thought.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Tonight,
yeah, sure.
Jason 6.
Jason 6. A very confident Jays fan. I love to hear it, sir. Yep. Thank you so much for your call today. Yep. Oh, I think we lost him. Okay, that's okay. Jason 6, and I think he was about to sing the praises of Trey Savage. He's the starter, 22-year-old rookie on the mound tonight for Game 1 against the LA Dodgers. Be right back. More of your calls today, Friday Free for All Talkback. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, it sure is. Talkback Friday Free for All. Emerson up next, calling from Calgary today. Hi, Emerson.
Hi, Rob. I want to say thank you for the privilege to appear on your show again. I just wanted to comment quickly on the Ford situation. I always have to laugh because everybody was saying Mark Carney was going to go in there with elbows up and get the job done. It seems like he's really in a hole, and it's getting bigger and bigger. So I'm just laughing because, you know, everyone was saying, oh, no, we can't go with Poilievre because Carney's got all the connections. He'll get us out of this mess. You know what? Thank you, Quebec and Ontario, for doing what you did, so you have to live with the consequences. But on the Blue Jays front, I'm going to start off by telling you this. In the first inning, George Springer is going to homer to get the crowd going. He's going to homer right off. The Jays are going to win the first two games. Okay. They're gonna lose the next two in LA. They're gonna win it in 6. And it's in the script. These guys are a brotherhood. They're so passionate. They love each other. This young kid, 22 years old, is going to go in tonight. He's going to win his first game in the World Series. I mean, I can't even believe what I'm seeing. I mean, everyone wasn't even picking them to be in the playoffs, let alone in the World Series. So thank you, Toronto. Thank you, John Schneider, for being reasonable and giving this young man the chance of his lifetime to shine on the world stage. And I'm really excited about tonight. Go Jays, go. We're going to win it. Bring it home for Canada. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Emerson. Another guy who's really bullish on the Jays, picking Jays in 6. Let's go to Mississauga. Bernie is in Mississauga. Hi, Bernie.
How you doing, Rob?
Good,
your
Bernie.
previous caller took my thunder. There's such a lot riding on this young guy's back tonight, but if he can pull off a win tonight, Toronto could go all the way, because he could set the tone for the series. He could settle down the big hitters of Los Angeles, Ohtani and a few of these guys. If he can set the tone tonight and get a win, Toronto got a good chance of taking that series.
All right. Okay. Any thoughts on what's happening with Trump these days, Bernie? You usually have an opinion there.
Yeah, why he's so thin-skinned that he can't even take a message even from a prodigy in his own party, Ronald Reagan, speaking against terrorists. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of the United States reminds me of Great Babylon in the Bible, and Nebuchadnezzar was their leader, and he had all gold around his thing. And that's what Donald Trump is. He's very thin-skinned, very shallow, and I hope I'd like to see the Blue Jays knock them off and then give them a kick in the cronies.
Okay, but you're the second person to say, well, Trump is so thin-skinned, and if you know that he's like that, should you be running ads like that? I guess that's the question.
What's Doug Ford going to do? I'm not a Doug Ford backer, you know that. But
I know.
What's he going to do? Stellantis is moving money out of the country. GM is moving money out of the country. I mean, he's got to make a stand, because it's Ontario's economy with the auto industry and everything, and he's got a right to speak up. But Ontario is the most populous place in the country. It's one of the most important economic engines of the country. So he's got a right to speak up. I don't blame him.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bernie. Have a good weekend. Yeah. Bye-bye. How about Greg up next in Calgary? Greg?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Rob. Thanks for having me. Fabulous show.
Thank you.
Just on the Jays, I wish our friends John Snyder would park his F-bombs, especially when there's probably 20 million kids watching him on national TV. I think the Dodgers are going to take it in 4. I would like the Blue Jays to take it in 7. I think.
You think the Dodgers are going to take it in 4? Okay. Why do you think? Why are you saying you think the Dodgers in 4?
Guy that just played the best game in the history of baseball. Shutdown pitcher, 3 home runs in a single game.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So and they've got a deep lineup, and they've got probably twice the salary cap or salary expenditure than the Jays do. So I don't even think it's a fair fight. Our guys might rise up, and if things go all our way, I think we can battle through 7. The Dodgers might be complacent and arrogant. They have every right to be.
Right.
They wiped out the Brewers in no time.
Yeah.
So that might catch them if they find the Jays are a little bit more than they expected. But it's going to be fun. And
that was very striking. I was actually picking when the postseason first started. I thought I don't see anybody beating Milwaukee, and then the Dodgers came along and made Milwaukee look ordinary. Milwaukee had the best record in the entire major leagues this year.
100%.
Yeah, it's crazy. That was really
now.
impressive.
If you want to talk Trump, let's switch gears.
Sure.
There's a lot to unpack. I think Ford and Ontario are brilliant, and I would bet my net worth on this view. There's no Republican more feared than Donald Trump by Republicans and by his base.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no Republican more respected than Ronald Reagan. So having good cop Mark Carney, who hasn't shown that he can negotiate yet, and to stroke Trump's ego, Carney's brilliant at that. That's how he got into office. Having a bad cop, like Doug and Donald know each other. They're cut a lot from the same cloth in terms of being aggressive and bullish and knowing what they want and standing up. Anyone that thinks Trump is thin-skinned, Trump knows Carney's underwater politically. And if he can create more pain by saying, I'm not playing, his only game is tariffs. 100% big tariffs on anyone that manufactures anything or produces any goods or services from outside the U.S. Full stop. That's his only game. We're not playing hockey. It's not elbows up. And I think the best gift Trump could give Canada to wake us up now is I'm terminating discussions because he can't apply any more tariffs. He thinks he'll come back and talk to us. But in the meantime, we have to realize that 90% of our GDP is dependent on the United States. And as he said to Zelensky, Canada right now doesn't have the cards. So we need to wake up.
Okay.
And
we got to wrap it up there. Yeah, we've got to wrap it up there, Greg, I'm afraid. I appreciate your call and your thoughts on both of those big stories today. Be right back on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Trump trade, Doug Ford, Ronald Reagan, TV commercials, the Blue Jays, the Dodgers. We're talking about it all today. It's also the Friday free-for-all, so you can start your own conversation if you want to. Let's go to Joe, is in Halifax today. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Rob. I'll make it quick. Well, no, that's a lie. None of us make it quick. We all say, I've got a quick question or comment, and we go on and on and on. I know. I'm on this end of the phone. But I agree with Curtis, your producer or director. Okay. I'm sorry to say he calls it the Dodgers in 5, and so do I. I don't want to. I really, really enjoy the Blue Jays a lot. I've enjoyed them all summer. They played better than I thought. I never thought they'd get to the World Series, so I was wrong, and I may be wrong again. But Dodgers in 5. Trump is a horse's ass. Everybody knows that. Carney hasn't had enough time to really make everything that he wants to happen to bring it to fruition. But and I think Doug Ford, a lot like his brother, he's got that Ford genetic predisposition to let his mouth overload his rear end, and I think he's showing a little bit too much bravado like a 14-year-old boy, and that's fine. But when you're representing the number of people that live in Ontario and in Canada, it totally lacks wisdom, totally. So anyway, that's thanks for taking my call.
So you think he's doing more harm than good? You think he's doing more harm than good, Doug Ford, with a...
Well, you said it yourself. He's dealing with a horse's butt.
Right.
I mean, I'm sort of an A personality. I would get into Trump's face. I'd like to. I'm a military guy from the States. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I don't like this idiot. It's all about him. Okay. Anyway, thanks for your time, Rob.
Just one more question, if you don't mind, because it kind of ties the two. The World Series is on Fox in the United States, and those commercials are going to, he says, continue to play during the World Series. What do you think of the wisdom of that decision?
Well, I already expressed that. I don't think what Ford is doing is very wise. But look Doug, his brother was the mayor of Toronto. What a poop show that turned out to be. So, it's fine to stand up for your province and for your country, but you have to be a little more mindful of how many people it's going to affect in a negative way. So,
sure thing. Well said.
Anyway.
Well said and timely, and you did it within the time frame as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you. That's it for hour number 1 of Talkback. If you're on the line, just hang on the line. Full hour just ahead. Lots of time to talk about some of these big issues, or an issue that might be on your mind, because it's the Friday free-for-all. The latest breaking news is coming up next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. Final hour for us for the week. Love to hear from you. It's our Friday free-for-all. But two big stories that really dominated the discussion today. They're the two biggest stories in the country. One is Donald Trump terminating all trade talks with Canada because he's mad about a TV commercial that the Ontario government's been running on U.S. networks. The Ontario government, led by, of course, Premier Doug Ford, it features the voice of Ronald Reagan speaking out against tariffs. So that's one story. Love your take on it. The other big story, Toronto Blue Jays, LA Dodgers. Game 1, World Series tonight, Toronto. First World Series game, 32 years. Just getting the tail of the tape, gathering some predictions. How do you think the World Series is going to go? Let's go to Brian. He is in Calgary today. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Very good, Brian. Thanks for calling. What's your
good? Yeah,
opinion?
I think. Thanks. Well, I wanted to comment, like everybody else, on the Rob Ford stuff today.
Doug Ford. Yeah.
My question is, sorry, Doug Ford. Yes, sorry. Kind of acting like Rob Ford maybe a bit today, but I'm just wondering what he was trying to achieve. By playing the ads in the Republican areas, it sounds like he was trying to go to hurt Trump, and to maybe motivate Trump in a way to play better with Canada, but. I mean, how's he hurting Trump? The midterms are a year away. Nothing to do today is going to matter in a year. I just don't know what he was trying to do. It feels like it was an emotional reaction instead of a strategic one. So it's just a big mystery.
I think what he was trying to do, and I believe he outlined it. We have a clip of Doug Ford from earlier this week, as a matter of fact. Why don't we play that? Can you call that up from our breakdown, please? Doug Ford speaking to reporters at the Ontario legislature on these ads and why he thought these ads would be effective. Let's listen here.
I heard that the president heard our ad. I'm sure he wasn't too happy, but it's real because it was coming from the best president the country's ever seen, Ronald Reagan. So it's very effective. It's probably one of the best ads I've ever seen, and it's coming from Ronald Reagan's voice, and it's going to be focused right across the country, but also in Republican-held areas, because what I feel, the Reagan Republicans are going to be fighting with a MAGA group, and let's hope Reagan Republicans win.
He thinks that there are still enough, even though Ronald Reagan left office in 1988 and died in 2004, he still thinks that the Reagan legend lives on and still inspires enough Republicans to, I guess, to carry sway in the court of public opinion. I don't know if that's the case. I think it's very debatable, but that's what Doug Ford thinks, I believe, based on what he said this week. What do you think about his analysis there?
Well, I think it's based a lot in hope. It's a long shot. I don't think that Trump spends a lot of time in public opinion. I think he will as they get closer to midterms. But I think he's, he has a strategy in mind, and he's barreling forward like a bull in a china shop with it. And then, a lot of people comment about Carney and, the deal that he hasn't yet secured. I guess the question I have that I'd love, people to answer if they're dissatisfied with the amount of time it's taking is, what's Carney's leverage, right? Like, a negotiation isn't Carney goes in, just becomes a nice guy, and Trump just cuts a deal because Carney's a nice guy. Like, Canada has got to have some leverage in order for the U.S. to give up anything. And I don't know that there is a lot of leverage. So I do think that deal is going to take some time to work through because we're not in a great position.
Okay. On the ads themselves, I mean, Premier Ford has said, I'm not pulling them. Maybe the government's paid for them already. I don't know. A lot of money, $75 million in Ontario taxpayer money being spent on those ads. He says, no, I'm not going to pull them. In fact, they'll be airing on Fox during the World Series tonight. What do you think about that decision?
It sounds like he hasn't talked with Carney yet, because I think Carney's en route to Asia. It'll be interesting to see if he changes his opinion once that conversation happens. I mean, what more damage can happen? So I don't know that there's any further harm that can happen by airing the ads tonight. But obviously, to get back at the table, something's got to change. I don't know if it'll be the ads or something else, but we have to be at that table.
Okay. All right, Brian. Anything else?
No, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Alex, up next on Talkback Friday Free for All. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I want to talk just about the root, one of the main cause of all the problems that we see now. And in my opinion, that's not only about one thing, it's so many things together. But the biggest one is, I call it like belonging. The belonging to Canada and how we see things through Canada. How we adapt into the system, how we are trying to contribute to the system. Like we tried someone for 10 years and we just elect them again. Even though I'm not conservative, but the thing is, like, if liberals is not working, just let's try someone else. Go for 4 years. It doesn't work. We're just going to elect someone else again. And this go for the Canada Post situation now, for the teacher situation now. For the foreign workers, that's the topic that you opened, the employers and how they control the market, the cost of living, being open to the East, to China, to Asia, to Middle East. And this takes me to what Ford did. I'm glad that this happened to show how fragile we are in the way that we have to wake up and be independent and be away from USA and relying on USA. And why should he have tariffs on us? We have the third reserve of oil and gas we're not touching. All the resources we have we're not touching. Someone has to speak up. Someone has to stand up and say, like, hey, this is not okay. The same way they have tariffs on us, we could do the same thing, and we can open to other countries. We are Canada. We shouldn't be supporting anyone else for any wars because everyone lives here.
Just because we're a little tight on time, you think the country would benefit from a changing government?
Oh, 100%. All the strategies should be changed. 100%.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And just like that, hour number 2 of Talkback is underway. Every single line is available right now. We'd love to hear from you. Trump, a big story today. Trump, Ford, and Ronald Reagan. Or the Blue Jays. Or anything else. 1-833-668-2577. This call on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Zach on the Friday Free for All Talkback. What's on your mind, Zach?
Hey, Rob. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, Zach. What do you want to talk about?
Good. I caught you at the tail end of your show yesterday, and you seemed somewhat surprised at my angle regarding faith and family life being crucial to men's purpose.
No, I wasn't really caught off guard by that. I was just encouraged because you don't hear a lot about that, especially from people your age, with all due respect. Yeah.
Oh, no, of course. So I had a little bit of time actually to collect my thoughts on that. I was just curious for you. Did you want me to talk about kind of what I think the problem is, or would you rather hear about, the things that have helped over the years in my
well, I mean, yesterday's question was centered on why are so many young men struggling? So if you have an idea on that, why do you think so many young Canadian men are struggling?
Well, I guess I'll just get to it. I personally think modern secular Canadian society, in my opinion, has completely failed men. I think we've been taught from a very young age that our innate male attributes are either toxic or require medication to regulate. I think male spaces that were sources of brotherhood have been hollowed out or, opened up to girls like Boy Scouts, Lions Club, the military. So much popular television shows, they portray men, father figures in particular, as either idiots or impotent, Homer Simpson, the dad in Modern Family. And, on a kind of a Canadian side, I think our country seems to lack a central unifying identity. Trudeau called us a post-nation state. We tear down our statues. We burn down our churches. I wish I had 3 hours to talk to you about this stuff, but
Right. Well, we don't. We only have we don't have a few minutes. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You mentioned say gathering places for men. Now, this wasn't a
Yep.
thing for me, but when I was young, a child, my father's generation, again, not so much mine, but certainly during my father's generation, the boomers, a lot
Yep.
of men served in what I would call service groups. You mentioned Lions Club, but there were lots of them: Knights of Columbus, Kinsmen, Rotary Club.
Yeah.
They are aging out now. It's just not a thing that young men do. And that used to be an outlet for things
Yep.
like
I think modern people now call
I
them
would say
third spaces.
yeah, I would say it was there. There were spaces for fellowship, volunteerism, civic engagement, mentorship. It's just not a thing that people do anymore. Do you think that's contributed to the issue?
Oh, 100%. I think, even things like the military, you look at slogans we had in the past, and this is all stuff that has not been passed down to me. I had to kind of stumble into this myself, but you look at slogans that unified us as a country, God, King, and country. And, that trickles down to local. I think, I don't think it's the total catalyst, but, the social media, the phones, it's like I said yesterday, it's kind of put us all into little bubbles and enclaves. Whereas,
echo
you
chambers.
have quote unquote community. Yeah. You have quote unquote communities on Facebook that are very like hyper niche. I'm part of this community, I'm part of that community. Whereas historically it was like the men in your neighborhood, you all gathered and helped your community, actual physical people in space. And on a spiritual level, you prayed for, more global things. You prayed for even local things. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at?
Okay. Yeah, sure. That's going to have to be our time today, though, Zach. I appreciate you calling back on that very interesting topic that we talked about yesterday. Very important topic. Got a lot of emails on that today. Rob is up next in Calgary. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good to hear from you today. Thank you. What's on your mind?
Okay, make it quick. I think Rob kind of stepped in it again in Ontario. Not unlike
Doug.
Doug. I'm sorry, Rob. Doug. Yes. Not unlike the Starlink thing. Like their estimate could cost the Ontario government $100 million, and it put a lot of people out losing their internet connection. Like I said, the folks out in the country. So I think it was a bit of a bad idea. Trump, I respect him as an American. I believe in America. I think they're our biggest ally, and should support them. However, he's like the big bully kid in the sandbox. He walks in there, a bunch of little kids, all getting along, right? He comes trumping in, kicks sand in half their faces, takes all their toys away, and that makes him happy. So then what the other kids got to do is just behind his back, how to get their toys back. You know what I mean? Secondly, we just had an election in Alberta, and we had like a 30% or less turnout rate. I mean,
in the municipal elections, in the municipal elections,
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, that's not uncommon, though. That's not just an Alberta thing. That's a municipal election thing all across the country.
You know what? In Alberta, we tend to think a little bit differently, which I'm sure you know. We value democracy, and I would just like to say, to all the people who couldn't take the time out to vote, shame on them. I mean, I don't think in 40 years I've ever missed an election. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying.
Okay. Just getting word now. Ontario is pulling the ads. It's just a headline. We'll dig in, find out a little bit more. Ontario pulling the ads. According to Politico. The Ronald Reagan TV commercial that has so upset Donald Trump that he has canceled trade talks. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Okay, so this is the headline. It's not Politico. It's the Globe and Mail. This is the headline. Ontario set to poll anti-tariff ads after Trump calls off trade talks, source says. And it's Bob Fife, who's the Ottawa bureau chief for the Globe and Mail. Adrian Morrow is the correspondent they have in Washington. And Laura Stone covers Queen's Park, the Ontario legislature for the Globe. They'll share the byline, three of them. Let me read a little bit. The Ontario government is poised to pull its anti-tariff ads running in the United States after they drew the ire of U.S. President Trump, who said he would end trade negotiations over the matter. Ontario Premier Doug Ford had said the contentious ad is going ahead as planned Friday, but a source told the Globe and Mail the ads have been locked in with television networks for the weekend, and Mr. Ford is expected to pull them on Monday. Sources say the ads have been effective, and Mr. Trump's harsh reaction to them will garner the attention of millions of Americans. But then there are some other interesting details. There are actually more than a few moving parts to this story to consider. Listen to this. Another source with connections to the Canadian and U.S. government said the president's displeasure at Canada isn't just aimed at the Ontario ads. The source said U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio complained to the president that Canada had threatened to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he came to Canada. Mr. Rubio has informed the president that Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand had said that Beijing is considered a strategic partner of Canada. Yes, she did say that. At a time when the United States is in the midst of a trade war with the world's second biggest economy. The source said U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer also weighed in with the president on Canada's decision to impose tariffs on some vehicles imported by General Motors and Stellantis, having to do with the news out of the auto sector in the last week and a half or so. Globe and Mail not identifying the source is not authorized to speak publicly about the negotiations. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so there's a lot of moving parts there, but the bottom line is the ads will air tonight, and I guess during the World Series game tomorrow, as well as another game 2 is tomorrow in Toronto, but on Fox, and they'll be pulled on Monday. You have, what's called bot media, which would be spending $75 million airing Ronald Reagan ads in the United States. That's bought media, $75 million. Or then you have earned media. That's when people talk about the ads. And Donald Trump's been talking a lot about the ads, obviously, on social media, and he's not happy with them. So I guess maybe given the reaction from Trump and the people around him, they feel that they've got their $75 million worth. But it is also interesting. It's not just the ads that Trump is mad about. It's all this other stuff. Threatening to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, calling China a strategic partner, and imposing those tariffs on vehicles imported into Canada from GM and Stellantis. Be right back.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, it sure is. The final few innings, so to speak, here of the Friday free-for-all Talkback. I mean, Trump, Doug Ford, Ronald Reagan ads. Generally speaking, I guess, according to today's news, the U.S. administration just being upset with a whole host of issues that Canada's been doing. Not just these ads, but the Prime Minister telling an interviewer, gosh, I think it was last week sometime, maybe even the week before that he would honor this arrest warrant for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued by the International Criminal Court. That has apparently upset the Trump administration. Anita Anand has been traveling all over Asia and said that Canada and China are now in a strategic partnership. Apparently news to the Americans. Maybe you question the wisdom of something like that. And then in light of Stellantis leaving Jeep Compass production behind in Brampton, Ontario, and General Motors deciding to cancel this electric delivery van that it was going to produce in Ingersoll. There have been exemptions under CUSMA for vehicles imported into Canada from the United States from Stellantis and General Motors, and they've cut those exemption quotas. And the Trump administration not happy about that. So it's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. Let's go to Dick in Calgary. Hi, Dick. Hi, Dick.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, Dick. Yeah, good to hear from you.
Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome. What do you want to talk about?
I was originally going to talk about foreign aid and question what exactly we were giving foreign aid to China for, like the specifics on we gave a dollar figure on how much we gave to China, but not exactly what it was for. But really,
well, I can tell you what the government says it was for. I can tell you what the government says it was for.
That would help.
Yeah. I have a quote here. This is from Blacklock's reporter this very day, and we spoke with Tom Korski earlier, the managing editor there. We have given China in the last 10 years $109 million in foreign aid to promote what the government calls sustainable development. And there's a direct quote from a briefing note that was issued by Global Affairs Canada on May 6, what we used to call the Department of Foreign Affairs. Canada's bilateral funding promotes key foreign policy priorities in China, including human rights, gender equality, sustainable development, and climate change. Canada's multilateral funding promotes sustainable development in developing countries worldwide. Based on gross national income per capita, China is eligible for official development assistance under the OEC definition. Canadian aid totaled $108.9 million since 2015 and $645 million since 2003. There you go.
Holy smokes. Well, that clears up that. I'm kind of speechless about that.
You are? Okay.
I am. The other thing I'd just like to comment on is the Ford pulling his ad and all that. I don't really think that's going to do anything to help our cause on the trade talks. You mentioned a few other things that are probably more important, like arresting an Israeli prime minister and
and forming a strategic partnership with China, according to the Foreign Affairs Minister. Yeah.
No, one of my best friends is Chinese, so I'm not racist toward or anti-racist against Chinese. I'm just thinking that our prime minister just hasn't got the backbone or the experience to do the job that he's doing, and he's proving it.
All right.
He's proving it over and over again.
All right. Thank you for your call today, Dick. Good to hear from you. To Eric is in Halifax today. Hello, Eric.
Hey, how you doing today, Rob?
Yeah, very good today. Looking forward to the ball game. Might take a little nap after work so I can stay up late,
Yeah. I got two reasons why I love the Dodgers. First of all, I'll never forget what they did in 1946 when they took Jackie Robinson, and no white team or white manager on this face of the earth wanted anything to do with Jackie Robinson. And who came true? The Brooklyn Dodgers. And I followed the Dodgers back in the early days when they had Fernando Valenzuela, Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, Pee Wee Reese, Maury Wills, Tommy Lasorda. and they had one of the best announcers that I can ever got to listen to was Vince Scully.
Oh, sure.
And win or lose, I will always respect the Dodgers for what they did in 1946. That
Fair
was
enough.
a great thing that they did for baseball. And win or lose, people should thank the Dodgers for bringing Jackie Robinson along like they did.
Okay, so give me a prediction.
The Dodgers in 6. Last year I took the Dodgers in 6 over the Yankees. They won it in 5. The name of the game is you win one in my park, I win one in your park. They got to take the fans out of the game. You know those fans in Toronto are retarded. They're crazy. They're off the wall.
I wouldn't use the word retarded. They're excited. You know, they're excited. Right? Okay.
Well, exciting or whatever, but acting as foolish as they are half the time. I mean, I'm a true Canadian. I was talking to CBS last night, and I told them that I was a true Canadian. They don't get very many calls from people from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Matter of fact, I don't even know if they know where it's at. But anyway, I told them the Dodgers in 6, and that's what I'm going with. And like I said, win or lose, I'll always respect the Dodgers. I don't care what happens in the rest of the world. As far
Fair
as
enough. Yeah, you've made your point. You've made your point. You've made your prediction, and we got to run, Eric. Thank you. Be right back, though, with some more of your calls at 1-833-668-2577 on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The public broadcaster is reporting now that in British Columbia, the NDP premier there, David Eby, says he's going to run anti-tariff ads in the United States. You have Doug Ford pulling ads because they anger Donald Trump, along with a host of other irritants in the Canada-U.S. relationship. But, Doug Ford's going to pull those ads, apparently, according to reports on Monday. And at the same time, you have BC Premier David Eby says, we're going to start running new ads. They're not out yet, but he says they're sure to get Trump's attention. Goodness gracious. Let's go back to our phones here. Ron in Red Deer. Hello, Ron. Just trying to keep up with it all today, isn't sure. Let's go to Ron. Hi, Ron.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Anyhow, I am just sick and tired of hearing about Trump. Trump is trying to take care of the U.S. What the hell is our government doing trying to take care of Canada?
Okay.
Carney says elbows up. We're the biggest crossroads we've ever seen in our country. And what has he done? Just talk. All Trump done is open Canadians' eyes that we have been mismanaged so poorly over the last so many years, especially the last 10 years. So what is Carney doing? He should have had something.
Okay. Not that I'm here
already
to defend the Liberal government. I'm not here to defend the Liberal government, okay? But I think if you ask that to the Prime Minister, he would say, well, here's what we've done, okay? We've done what we can do at the federal level to try and eliminate interprovincial trade barriers in order to get commerce moving better between the provinces. We've opened up a national projects office in Calgary, in your province, Ron. That's what he would say. We've outlined these 5 projects that we've deemed to be in the national interest, and come the Grey Cup, we'll reveal 5 more, all in order to build up the Canadian economy, employ more Canadians, get projects, moving, whether that's, nuclear reactors in Ontario, LNG on the West Coast, mining in northern Saskatchewan, northern BC, those kinds of things. Nothing on an oil pipeline for Alberta, which is a frustration, I'm sure, for Premier Smith, but we'll see what's in the next tranche, if you will, of projects to be announced at the Grey Cup. And he would say, we're trying to diversify our trade, and that's why I'm going all over the world. That's why I'm going to Europe. That's why I left from Malaysia today and going to South Korea, going to Singapore, going to all of these places to try and drum up more business. I think that's what he would say.
The infrastructure
Ron?
to actually get products from all of the provinces to Tidewater, it's not going to go anywhere. And the bottom line is, if you look at Germany, when Russia cut off their natural gas, they were urgently looking for LNG, which Trudeau turned down. Anyhow, in 9 months, they had conception to an operating LNG facility in 9 months. That's urgency.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
You
only thing
don't think the government is acting with enough urgency. Fair comment, sir.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to end my rant with Hudson Bay Company was here before Canada was even a country. And if we don't match our expenses with income, we're going to be in the very same boat very quickly.
Well, you're not going to see that on budget day. I think you know that. Prepare yourself for some deficit shock.
The people of Canada should be yelling from their lungs on the top of the hills, because if this government keeps going the way they're going, even the government watchdog said there's going to be a point of no return on the deficit.
Well, I don't know if the voters really care about deficits, sir, to be quite honest with you.
Well, they better.
I know,
because,
I know you say they
exempt.
better, but,
Bay.
Look, they elected a government that was clearly going to run a deficit. Maybe the size of this deficit will strike some as maybe a bit too large, but they also elected Justin Trudeau in 2015, who promised to run deficits. He said he would only run 3 small deficits. He ran deficits every year he was in office, a lot of them a lot bigger than, $10 billion or whatever his promise was. And he won 3 elections.
I don't get it, because bottom line is we have everything the rest of the world wants. And if we can't get it to our product to Tidewater or wherever, we're going to sink very quickly.
All right. You're very concerned, and I appreciate that, sir. And I thank you for your call today. Well, the Friday Free For All Talkback, we'll be right back. Fred, you hang on the line. Want to hear what you have to say today. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I should say it is interesting to note, just as we wind down Talkback here, despite all this news about Trump ending trade talks and all of his many disappointments that he has with Canada, the financial markets today don't seem to be bothered by this at all. The Canadian stock market's actually up. I'm just watching a trade here, final hour of trading in Toronto. It's up 150 points. I mean, it's not up by a lot, but I mean, it's 0.5%, but it beats the alternative, right? And that's despite oil prices being just down a little bit today. And gold, which has been on a real run, of course, as you may have heard, it really surrendered a lot of the gains this week, took a big drop down. Earlier in the week, gold was approaching 4,400 or so US, and it's poised to end the week closer to 4,100. So it's a drop of about 5% for the week for gold. And the dollar, the Canadian dollar, it's down, but it's not down a lot. It's down I think I'm looking here, six basis points. So, I mean, it's pretty much flat on the day. 71 and change for the Canadian dollar. Not much movement in the markets, despite all this talk about Trump and trade and tariffs. And it hasn't been a great week of economic news, especially for the auto sector for Canada. But let's go to Fred in Calgary. Thanks for waiting, Fred.
Hi, Rob. How you doing today?
Very good, Fred. Thanks. Good to hear from you. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm here in Calgary. We're clearing thousands of acres of ground for houses and everything. There's so many people moving in to Alberta. Yeah. And I'm wondering, there's a simple solution to the school problem, is before any houses are built, and they know how many are being built, there should be schools built first. Same as they have curbs and sidewalks and underground services, schools should be built first, and there should be a big enough school to accommodate the people that are living in these neighborhoods. The second thing is what I'm finding about the governments right now, and especially the Smith government, is that they're saying this is what we offer, but they're not going any further than that. They're not telling the people what they have planned next. They should be coming up with the solution, not the teachers. The teachers are there to teach. The nurses are there to nurse. And it should be the government letting us know. I have no idea where the Smith government is headed. All I know is that the teachers don't lie. The classrooms are overcrowded. Their pay, as far as I'm concerned, is up there. It's pretty good. But I just see no vision from Daniel Smith just saying no. Like, now, Kenny went through the same thing. It was almost like he had a girlfriend in the provincial government working, and he was being vindictive. And that's what she seems like. She seems like there's more to this. But I wish they would come up with a solution rather than just saying, no, we're not going to do what the union wants. The teachers aren't there to come up with solutions. They're there to teach. When they build these neighborhoods all across Alberta, the schools should go in.
Well, the government, I think, would say, well, we pledged to build 30 new schools in the budget, in the provincial budget, 30 new schools, and accelerate the construction of those that were planned as well, right?
Well, I'll tell you something. The more schools they build, the more people they put to work, the more taxes that are paid. It's as simple as that. I just don't get it. I want to hear something from the government, because I know they're smart. She's a smart woman. But I want to hear her tell me where we're headed. If you're not going to build 50 schools, why are you not building them? Okay? Well, thank you, Rob. Love your show.
Well, they're going to pass back to work legislation. You know that, if there's no settlement. What do you think of that?
That's wrong. They're just going to stay home.
Wrong. Okay.
They're going to stay home. It's going to make it worse. Everyone's going to get their arse up in the air, and it's just going to make it worse. And sadly, it's just going to cause more chaos and possibly riots.
I don't think there'll be
nobody
riots.
Wants to stay home with their kids.
There could be work-related stoppages or work to rules or things like that in solidarity with the teachers. I don't know. I wouldn't say there's going to be riots over it. I think that might be going a bit too far. Look, if we don't wrap things up around here by news time, there'll be a riot. Enjoy that baseball game tonight, everyone. Go Jays, go. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.